Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Alyssa Gagne, Customer Success Manager for Industry Innovation, and I'm delighted to welcome you to our panel, Decoding Canada's AI Skills Blueprint, What Industry Really Needs. In my role working with industry partners, I see firsthand how organizations are grappling with the challenge of finding and developing AI talent that combines technical expertise with practical business acumen. I'm pleased to introduce our moderator and panelists who bring diverse perspectives from across the AI ecosystem. Our moderator today is Melissa Judd, Vice President of Research Operations and Academic Partnerships at the Vector Institute, where she leads initiatives connecting academic research with industry applications. Joining our discussion are 4 leaders actively shaping AI talent strategies in their organizations. Stephanie Maccio is Director of Finance and Media, Data Engineering and Artificial Intelligence at Bell. She brings over a decade of experience in data leadership, specializing in deploying AI solutions from natural language processing to dynamic pricing strategies, and is currently driving Bell's adoption of generative AI technologies. Louis Curley serves as Partner and AI Workforce Canadian Lead at KPMG, where he leads the people and change consulting practice across the GTA, Ottawa, and Atlantic Canada. With over 25 years of global consulting experience, Louis helps organizations plan for and capture the value of AI presents while keeping people at the center of transformation. Ezequiel Machabanski is VP of Insights and Analytics at EllisDon, bringing nearly 2 decades of experience in capital markets and data strategy. His expertise spans from financial analysis to research leadership, with a focus on creating sustainable value through innovation in the construction sector. Ozge Yeloglu is Vice President of Advanced Analytics and AI at CIBC, where she leads AI enablement and analytics solutions across the bank. She previously led the data and artificial intelligence technical team at Microsoft Canada, bringing experience from academia to startups. Outside her role, she mentors startup founders through Creative Destruction Lab and is a founding member of the Atlantic Women's Investment Fund, focusing on female-led startups. I'll now hand it over to Melissa to begin our discussion on the critical skills and capabilities needed to advance AI strategies across Canadian industry. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Alyssa. Excellent. So thanks for those introductions. Now, I just wanted to set the stage a little bit before we launch into our panel, because we're at a really interesting and important inflection point as it relates to both skills and from a technology perspective. A few short years ago, when Vector was born, there was a scarcity of talent. We saw a handful of folks graduating from PhD programs, very specialized programs, and many of them, post-graduation, were heading outside of Canada to find opportunities. Fast forward to today, we're seeing a wave of technical talent graduating from universities from a diversity of different programs and disciplines, and many of that talent is choosing to stay right here in Canada. So I think that's something to really celebrate in terms of the ecosystem that we've created. So there we are from a talent perspective. From a technology perspective, over the past few years, we've seen breakneck change. We went from sort of narrow, brittle models solving very specific use cases to a very accessible general purpose technology that has eclipsed human capabilities in just a few short years in a number of areas. So we're in interesting times right now. And I think in this rapidly changing environment, finding the right talent and situating that talent in an environment that has trust, that has the receptor capacity, isn't always as straightforward as we would like it to be. And we're gonna sort of unpack some of the skills, some of the opportunities and challenges that we need in terms of advancing our talent landscape here in Canada. So let me dive in with a question for each of you. You all come from different sectors with different needs, different lines of business. And I would love to hear briefly from each of you what are the specific combinations of skills that you find most crucial today in terms of the implementation in your industry of AI, and how might these requirements be evolving? And I'm going to ask Ozge to kick us off.
For sure. I would say the top one is really curiosity for me. Depending on the role, absolutely, I would like to see the data science expertise, but really core understanding of what machine learning is and how it's built, and really understanding the core concepts and having the experience, whether through education or through work, would be core if we're really looking for hands-on AI development and deployment kind of roles. But what I'm seeing is just a great example is within my mandate, which has changed and expanded a lot in the last 2 years. It's not just hiring data scientists, but it is hiring AI governance, part of the AI governance office. So it's more like risk-minded data scientist, or have people having experience within the compliance functions and so on, or very simply AI change management. So I'm not going to obviously expect a core data science skills from a change management person, but really, how do we find these curious people who are willing to learn, right? Because I think we're at that stage with AI is it's rapidly changing, and how do we make sure that we're able to combine these different types of skills within this with this field?
Excellent. Isi, would you like to comment on the construction industry?
Absolutely. We're a little bit of a different animal here, the construction itself. So obviously, we're looking always for very strong technical candidates, but if we sort of take a step back and recognize that AI sits at the intersection of computer, data science, but primarily applied mathematics and statistics, this is the one skill that we always look for in a data scientist. Of course, we want them to build AI agents, but they need to have a profound understanding of quantitative methods. The second skill set that we sort of zoom in, it's communication. And I think that because construction is one of the most skeptical sectors in the industry, right from the get-go, so the analyst will have to actually be able to tell a story on how the AI project actually delivers value and improves lives on site for PMs or supers. So that's critical for us. So as a recap, I will say most definitely mathematics and communication skills for sure.
Excellent. Lewis.
Thanks. Probably similar. We're actually not different, I don't think. In professional services, key for me is really critical thinking, right? And we've heard that on a few of the panels. As we use AI more in the work we do, that doesn't mean we just parrot back to our clients, well, this is what the AI told me, because why would you be paying for my people to do that? It's understanding context. It's being able to communicate, tell the story. But it's being able to think critically, and is this the right answer from the AI? Does this work for my particular client? I also think, and same thing, curiosity, learning agility. We kind of have always had that in consulting. We have to be at the forefront, but I look more and more for people that are willing to ride the waves of change, can learn quickly, to your point earlier, Stephanie, are really comfortable with the dynamic world that AI is giving us. So yeah, comfortable with change, critical thinking. And I suppose the other thing is having that base understanding. I don't have data scientists in my team. There's some in KPMG, and we borrow them when we need them. But having a base understanding of what AI is and what it can do, whether it's internally for their role or as they talk to clients, being able to identify, hey, here's some opportunities for you.
Excellent. And Stephanie in telecommunications.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more with everything that's been mentioned so far. We see the same thing. I think telecommunications has a big advantage that we've been working with huge amounts of data for a really long time, so we have a bit of a leg up there. I'd say what we're looking for really is people who are comfortable being on that cutting edge of AI constantly. So they're helping us innovate to find the next big use case. But they're also people who are like having the technical skills to bring it to a production grade solution, something that we can rely on to be accurate and there for us on a day-to-day basis. And then the communication skills, like we mentioned, is really important because you see so many business partners where they think AI is just a magic wand, right? They're just going to wave it, it's going to make all their problems disappear immediately. So it's that skill set to be able to explain to them what AI is, what it can do to bring value today, what it's maybe not quite ready for tomorrow, but then bringing it all together to help us do some maybe not magical things, but really amazing things.
Excellent. I'm hearing a lot of C's: communication, curiosity, critical thinking. Absolutely. And change. There you go. Excellent. So Stephanie, can you comment a little bit more about how Bell has adopted its approach to identifying and developing talent and some of the challenges you might have experienced along the way?
Yeah, so I think that's an interesting question when it comes to AI. Because if I was in a more traditional field, not AI, if I was describing my perfect candidate, I'd probably say I want years of experience doing exactly what we do and the same technology we work in, maybe even a decade of experience, right? And the fact is nobody has that because nobody's been doing exactly what we're doing for years. We haven't even been. And what we're doing today is going to change by a month from now. So it's really coming down to what are the core traits and what is the background that you're looking for so you can find the right people that will continue to grow along with the industry and with the field of AI. So if I think, for example, I'm looking for a machine learning engineer, these are the people who I need to make my production solutions, right? They need to follow corporate security standards. I want somebody who's obsessed with maintainability and reliability. I probably want someone from an engineering background, right? And when I grow them, it's going to be about how they're going to grow into best practices architecture, cloud certifications. On the flip side, like we mentioned, maybe I'm also hiring, though, for technical project managers. And they don't need to know all of that really nitty-gritty detail. They have to understand AI, but equally important is going to be the organization, the communication skills. And we're going to grow them, obviously, in a different way, where they don't have to get that deep on everything. And even when we think about our data scientists, like they're developing models still, but with Gen AI coming in, some of our data scientists are developing full applications, right? They're doing software development now. They're designing UIs now for front end. Some of them are going into ethics and responsible AI. So it's really about finding people with the right background and traits that are going to be interested in the role that they're doing so we can bring it all together. Now we're delivering a solution that is innovative, but it's also reliable and it's also business-centric.
Excellent. So we've focused a little bit on the talent. I want to sort of turn the lens on what needs to happen within the organization. And Louis, you work with a number of clients at KPMG to build teams that are leading AI transformation. What do you think are those critical organizational key success factors, where you're seeing organizations being able to bring in and really mobilize these teams for impact?
Yeah, I think a great question, and all our clients are at different parts of the journey and have different industries, so looking for different things. But some of the commonalities, and I think we've kind of talked a bit, is that this is a multifaceted challenge, problem, set of solution spaces. So one of the things we often talk to clients about early on is making sure they have a broad understanding of the opportunities that AI is presenting to them as an organization. Far too often I see clients are very obsessed, if I can say that word, with use cases. What's my use case for this little bit of my business? And it's a valid point, but it isn't really asking the right question, in my opinion. Where I like to do it, and I am biased, I work in people and change, is to look at people. So I look across the organization and say to clients, you need to look at what is it all your people are doing today, and how can AI augment, add into that? Where might it be replacing some of that? And then start to think about, well, what do you do with that capacity? I like to say, capacity is great. AI is going to save you, pick a number, a stat. Every vendor will tell you 2 hours, 5 hours, 25% of your time. Capacity doesn't equal dollars until you start to think about what you're going to do with that capacity. So we also like to think about, once you've understood the opportunity, how are you then going to make money from that opportunity? From a skills perspective then, it is then about how do we understand the talent we have in the organization today at a really granular level, not role titles, not job titles that have been around for 25 years, but who are these people and what do they bring to the organization? And then we can start to look at what we call skills adjacency. So I might not have the perfect person, and I learned a phrase the other day from my recruitment colleagues, the purple squirrel, which is what they use in recruitment for the perfect candidate. You're not going to find that. But we may have people in our organization already today that are close to or have adjacent skills that we can train very quickly to become technical project managers, data scientists within reason. I mean, you know, university is there for a reason. But doing that breakdown of the organization into what do we have, where can AI improve that, what skills do we have, what skills can we build on, really helps organizations, I think, capitalize on the opportunity ahead of them and not be frozen in the analysis paralysis or we're never going to hire the right people. Because actually, no matter the size of the organization, you've probably got a lot of skills that are untapped in your organization today. And with a little bit of investment or a little bit of investigation, you can put yourself in a really powerful place. And then the final bit is, if you've found those people, you've got the adjacent skills, how do you build the learning agility that they can keep learning and keep growing? And not just for the individual, but the organization as a whole. Organizations need to change their ways of being, this is the organization we are today, and it's what we've been doing for, some cases, 100 years, and being more comfortable with constant change, constantly learning, constantly reinventing ourselves. If you build that into the culture of your organization, it fits into your people, and you're setting yourself up for success, whether it's AI or something else that comes down the pipeline. I don't use the word terrorists, but whatever comes and hits you, if you're ready to learn and be agile, you're going to be able to ride that wave.
Excellent.
Can I
Ozge.
add on that, Melissa?
Yeah, please.
Great points. And I think one of the other things from the talent, when we talk about talent, I find most of the times we think about the more junior talent. But in that example, I think the most natural and the organic way of doing it also goes through the leaders who can recognize those adjacent skills, right? Because I have seen so many situations. I love growing people. It just gives me joy seeing people going through ranks, right? I do love it so much personally, and my experience is, it's very much up to the leader as well. I see great leaders who can recognize the potential in the person and just keeps encouraging and gets them to a newer place than what they've been doing in the last 10 years. And then I have seen leaders that they don't have that thinking or mentality. And the core of it, in my opinion, is care. How much you care about your people.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I'm hearing a need for discovery within all of our organizations about the talent that we are sitting right beside and really understanding their skills, their motivations, and where they can grow, a need for that sort of learning and agility on a constant basis, and leadership to really drive that change and to recognize what is among us. Excellent. Now, Ozge, your portfolio has increased, it's changed, it's widened significantly over the past few years. Can you talk a little bit about how you've harnessed that sort of view of looking at who's in your organization and who might be able to fill new and adjacent roles within your team?
I guess great follow-up question, Melissa. Just as a little bit of a context, when I first started at CIBC about 5 years ago, I was running a team of AI development folks, like pure data scientists, and that's all we did. And in the last couple of years, it has expanded, and now we have the AI governance office within my organization, and applied AI research team, and starting a AI change management team within my organization as well. If you asked me a couple of years ago that I was going to be a compliance and oversight function at the bank, I would be like, that does not make sense. If you asked me last year that I was going to run an AI change management team, I would be laughing, because what do I know about change management, right? But the experience, especially, we've seen really great success growing our own talent with the AI governance office function. And how it happened, it was truly leaders recognizing the talent and encouraging the talent. And how we started this almost 3 years now, it was kind of on the side of our desks and talking about responsible AI, right? And then what does that mean for CIBC? And as the data scientists, as the community building AI for our bank, what is it that we can do to bring that culture into our bank, and so on and so forth? So it was kind of a few data scientists within the team who kind of like picked up on that idea. They really loved the idea. They kept coming back to me with more ideas and more thinking, or how about this, how about that? And then so honestly, that was the start of it. And then recognizing that talent and realizing, okay, maybe we can do something with this and grow our own talent. And very fortunate for us, I guess, our current lead, our senior director for AI governance office, he's a hands-on trained data scientist, but he worked at Air Force in their risk and audit department as an engineer before joining CIBC and becoming into a data scientist. So my running joke right now is like, well, if Air Force trusted this guy to put jets up on the sky, I think we're okay with that. But it goes back to that story. Goes back is like, I don't think he ever thought that he would run an AI governance organization, but he's loving it. He's doing an amazing job because he can take all of the skills and the knowledge and experience that he had in his previous life and current life and make something out of it. And I find that it also gives our teams great pride when they're creating something. Creating a new function is always exciting, and how do we make sure that we empower them to do more of that, right?
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Now, I wanted to turn it back to construction again, because it is an industry that has been traditionally a bit slower in terms of adopting AI, and there's tons of interesting opportunities, both from a business perspective as well as on site. Can you comment on some of the challenges that you've seen within your work and how that might be changing?
Absolutely, there are so many. I think for construction to begin with, I guess our biggest challenge is to attract top-tier talent, and that is because construction is known as shiny as to work for a Google or one of the large tech companies, right? But I think the bigger challenge is our collective inability. When I say collective, I'm just talking about the AEC industry, the architecture, engineering, construction industry, to actually tell the story around the opportunity, which is significant. So time and again, construction lacks in terms of tech adoption, digital maturity, and that represents a huge opportunity for the AI community, right? Just to help us bring construction up to par with the rest of the economy. That represents such a huge opportunity, and not only financially, career-wise. I think that's a story that we fail to tell and share with the AI community, and we gotta do more around sort of repositioning construction and change the optics completely, right? So that's sort of my pitch. If anyone is actually looking for a job, please look for me after the panel. I think that's the biggest challenge we're actually facing right now.
So really speaking to the possibility within the space that all of our talent can bring to bear.
Absolutely. We're 8% of the economy, 8% contribution to the GDP, right? So that's significant. And I'm just talking about bringing us up to par. And then there is the whole complexity around disrupting the industry, which we have been trying to do for the last 10 years. And it's very tough to do.
Absolutely. And in terms of national priorities, housing is one of our top priorities. So there's an urgency as well in terms of what we need here in Canada. Excellent. Thank you. Now, I wanted to shift the conversation a little bit to displacement, because we know we've all played with generative AI and the opportunities that it's brought to bring increased productivity, to bring increased speed up, whether it's research, writing, coding. It's a fantastic tool, wonderful tool. But those functions are often things that we bring in some of our most junior talent or interns to do on a regular basis. That's their first foray in terms of the workforce. And if we're thinking about that disruption in terms of, I don't want to say replacing interns, replacing junior talent, but perhaps needing less of that talent in all of our organizations. Louis, I'd love to hear from you about what sort of the longer term implications of that might be, both for students, I mean, internships are important opportunities, but also for organizations and for our educational sector.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a big passion of mine. I think we need to be careful. A couple of clients of ours who will remain nameless have joked, and I'm sure they were joking in that, oh, well, that means I don't need to recruit anybody for 5 years because we've got AI now. And that'll make amazing stock shareholder value for 5 years, and then your company will fail. So it is a really important thing that we need to tackle both as research institutes, corporations, universities, government as well, to think about how do we change what's expected of our younger, kind of first on the talent pipeline people. I think there's lots of opportunities, again, within consulting. If I think about how we work, yeah, a lot of what I have my interns do, I could probably get done with AI. What I'm now looking to do is how can they use the AI to do that? We're even starting to think, can we bring AI into our recruitment process, which is quite scary because most people are like, oh, we shouldn't have AI in recruitment. I've done a number of press interviews on that, but actually, our point of view is, well, we should. When somebody arrives on day one, I'll be, can you use Gemini Copilot? Can you, use AI as part of your job? Why would I not want them to use that in the recruitment process? So that then leads to, are we equipping our people at universities, at tertiary education, to have those skills? Can they use AI? But more importantly, and back to my kind of earlier point, and one of the C's is, are we really equipping people with critical thinking? I mean, there's a good Microsoft paper that we can probably find a link to around what the impact of AI might have on critical thinking. Can be positive, but it can also be negative. And I think we need to be, as industry, dare I say, as humankind, pretty much aiming for the positive, because if we start to just delegate all of that critical thinking to machines, as good as they are, it's not going to enable us to drive things forward. So I think there's definitely a need to change the expectations of those first years of your time in the corporate or any other type of world, both to drive more rapid experience. A lot of the reason why we ask our interns to do things that are fairly mundane and admin is it gives them the experience, we can kind of challenge them, give them that feedback. How do we do that more rapidly, get them up the value chain more quickly? And also, how do we look to our tertiary education and support and work with them? This is what we need. In all of our industries, this is what we need for the first few years working for us. That has to be a joint effort. It can't all be on industry, and it can't all be on the university as well. But I think it's a really big topic and an important one for our economy. Otherwise, we will either end up with a dearth of talent because we've not been able to build them, or we'll have a number of organizations that have been very successful financially and then suddenly find themselves in a lot of trouble when it comes to attracting new talent.
Thank you for that. Now, we started the panel sort of reflecting back on where we've come in terms of talent. I want to look forward now in terms of where we're going. And I know none of us have crystal balls because we wouldn't be here if we did. We would be doing other things. We'd be betting in Vegas probably. But thinking ahead 3 to 5 years, I'm curious about what new capabilities each of you anticipate needing within your organizations and sectors, and what role would you like to see our higher education system in preparing for that future? And why don't we start with Ozge?
Yeah, I wish I had that crystal ball. I don't know, but for me, the near future interesting challenge, I think the previous panel touched on that as well, the change management piece, and how do we do that properly? So it's an interesting one that we're looking at right now, and making sure that it's not an afterthought, but it's part of everything that we do, and it's built into everything that we do within our organization at CIBC. But overall, I would say, because we don't really know. Honestly, I don't think anyone really knows where the world is going to go in the next 2-3 years from the skills perspective. But if you have the core AI skills, that's amazing. That's awesome. That's plus. And if you can surround those core skills with anything else, whatever you might be good at, whatever you might be passionate at, like the examples that I gave you can be risk, can be compliance, can be change management, can be people, like whatever it is that you think you can bring to table other than those or on top of those core skills, I think it's amazing. And from the academic institutions perspective, like the example that we have with Vector, our partnership with Vector Institute has been amazing and very valuable in the last few years. Creating these new functions, sometimes it feels like nobody really knows what they're doing. Even in the industry, you're talking with your peers, they're like, yeah, we're figuring that out too. But almost like having that gut checks with our partners like Vector Institute, making sure we have training programs for our employees, making sure that we're having roundtables with our industry partners and so on, or colleagues. I find that it's very, very valuable, especially in the phase of this unknown.
Absolutely. Isi, over to you.
I think midterm, as hopefully we're going to be in a significant more digitally mature stage, I'm just talking about construction as a whole, right? I think the job market will become more competitive, and I think that AI professionals wanting to enter the construction business, they will need to have some sort of a multidisciplinary set of skills, understanding like basic engineering principles, perhaps project management activities or scheduling activities, which is a core function of construction. So I think that that's where the sort of the requirements will come from as we continue to progress and become more digitally mature, for sure.
Excellent. Louis.
I think one thing that will be interesting is going to be how, when you talked about leaders, how leaders get comfortable with having AI as part of a team. I think over the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to start to see truly understanding that I might have work being done with a human, work being done with an AI, and whether it's agentic or otherwise, and how we bring that together as one cohesive team. Many leaders today, some are good, some struggle with leading a team of humans. It's going to be a whole different challenge when you've got to make a decision on, is it human, is it AI, what type of AI, how do they work together and share that way. So I think that's going to be an interesting area. And yeah, from a university perspective, I think I talked about it, I think it is really working, as you guys do, working with industry to understand what's needed in those first few years and how do you rapidly gain experience. I think that one of the keys to unlocking for me is how do we get, almost like the Matrix, how do we download into people's brains 5 years of experience in a year? That will be a really kind of key thing.
Excellent. Stephanie, last words.
Yeah, so I know you asked like 3 years in the future, and I have a hard enough time telling you what I'm going to be doing 3 months from now, right? I think the key, especially if you look back at what Gen AI has done over the last couple of years and how much change we've all talked about and how like the industry has really been shifting a lot, it's going to be really difficult to consider that you would just graduate from school with everything you need to know to do your job, right? You really need to focus on creating and just being really curious, lifelong learners that are really like passionate about problem solving, and that's going to serve us no matter what the future holds.
Excellent. Well, I would love for you to all join me in thanking our lovely panelists today. Thank you so much for your insights. Thank you.